of slides we'll talk about language, and this is something that we will always discuss whenever we talk about cognitive development. Now, regardless of what type of language you speak and what kind of background you have, there is a universal sequence of language acquisition that unites human beings. And we already talked about how developed the ability to hear from the time the baby is in the womb. And at birth, newborns have a preference actually for speech sounds than they do to any mechanical sounds. They are more, research has shown that there's a higher level of brain activity when they listen to a voice than they would to, let's say, a musical instrument. Around 6 months is when they gain that ability to kind of distinguish between sounds. So research shows that infants who would be made to listen, let's say, to a female who had a similar language and dialect as the parent, in comparison to another female who spoke a different language or a different dialect, they were more in tune to the one that is similar to their language, showing that they have ability to distinguish between the two and they have preference. One thing that we love to do around babies is really talk in baby talk. And some people might think that that type of talk, baby talk or motherese, is actually negative. In research shows that that high-pitched language and simplified and baby-like talk is actually has a positive influence on the cognitive development of the baby. This repetitive engagement, it kind of gets the brain activated, gets those connections activated, and it's a way that gets the baby to pay close attention. So if you use motherese with your child, do continue to do that. There is nothing scientific about negative effects. As a matter of fact, there are the science behind this is supportive. Infants tend to engage more, tend to pay more attention, and therefore, if you have that, if you get the attention of the infant, then you're engaging with that reciprocal interaction or the serve and return interaction, and that is what we want to grow those synapses in the first years. All right, so what happens as far as the language acquisition stages? We start with babbling. All babies babble. So they begin at around 6 to 9 months when they start to make those sounds that are repetitive of a particular syllable, ba ba ba, ma ma ma, and they are, as we said, they are part of the brain structure, so they are experience expectant. So the brain is expecting language in order for it to develop. So a baby that is deprived of this interaction will have a brain that suffers. Those are crucial to later vocabulary. So that's why it's very important to keep talking to babies. The more we talk, even though the baby's babbling, it creates that connection. It creates that network that will later on be pretty much the foundation for speech. It will start to sound like the native language at around 1, and that's because babbling is pretty much universal, and most languages, if not all, use those simplified 2 syllables, and it's not by accident that names of parents, moms, and dads are usually a combination of those simple syllables, mama, baba, and so forth. Gesturing is definitely something that also universal. All infants gesture. the pointing is going to emerge as the development of the fine motor develops. So pointing is going to happen around 10 months, when the baby is actually able to master their ability to sit and support their trunk, and that support from the inside out extends to the arm and then to the fingers. First words are not going to come until one, and again, when we talk about typical development, that is a big window, which means that we expect it to happen around this time. However, it could happen a couple of months before or a couple of months later. So the reason why we look at milestones or typical development is to give ourselves some sort of a guideline to know if there are any red flags. This is the time when we should be addressing them. So at about one, a few words are going to come. They're going to increase gradually. The more you talk to your child, the more you get those connections happening, the better the language is going to be. Their understanding, their receptive language is much, much higher than their productive language. So they understand 10 times more than what they can produce. So a lot of times you see the child not talking and barely saying any words, and then you come back and you oh, it's like overnight you hear them very fluently talking, and it's all the words that you've been stuffing in their head. Well, this is a milestone that they will achieve, and we'll talk about it in the next slide. So if your child is not saying all the things that you are saying to them, it's because they are retaining this information, and the next stage is when they actually are able to produce it. First words are usually labels of familiar things, so they gradually increase as that linguistic ability increases. Very interesting concept here is the hollow phrase. This is a hallmark of this age group. A child might use one word to mean multiple things. It's just the way that it is said, and the context is how they reference it. So they might use the word dad or dada to give multiple sentences. So dada might mean where is dada? And dada could be dada's home, or dada could be just calling dad. So the way the pronunciation happens, the way the context within the child's expression can give a complete meaningful thought about what the child is saying. Next, you're going to see that all the retention come out literally overnight. So all of a sudden, there's going to happen, what's going to happen is what's called a naming explosion. And this explosion usually happens in the first half of the second year. So between 12 and 18 months is when they really learn a lot of words and say a lot of words. And they're usually names of familiar people and items around them. So it could be the names of their siblings and their pets and their favorite food, and connections to how they use the bathroom. So all of this is going to happen in a very rapid, accelerated speed, and it's pretty much from the 50. Of course, no one is going to sit and count how many words their kid says, but it's about 50 is a close assessment of when that explosion happens. After the 50 mark, then the buildup becomes very, very high, and it doubles and triples by the month. By 21 months, now we're looking at a vocabulary that is pretty much double what the child had achieved in just 6 months. So rapid growth, and this happens due to a process of nature and nurture. So engagement, of course, their cognitive ability improves, but also their interaction with the environment is going to promote that development. All right, grammar is pretty much what binds language. So if you memorize a dictionary, you still cannot speak a language. You can speak a language when you put it together in something that makes sense. So all these processes of putting words in the right order, using verb formations and proverbs and adverbs and all of that is what makes meaningful communication. So it becomes very present in the way children speak a particular sentence. So, how well is the grammar? How developed is, how sophisticated is the language of the child is measured through what we call the mean length utterance, as in how many words per sentence. So a baby might start by saying baby and point to a baby, meaning that the baby is perhaps crying. And then as they advance in their linguistic ability, they will look at the baby and say baby crying. And then the better sentence would be baby is crying. So as you can see, the more the words, and of course given the grammatical context, that shows the length of the sentence shows the higher level of development in language. So the mystery question is, how do we learn language? And this is a question that hasn't been fully understood yet. However, there are many theories on it, one of which is that infants are taught how to speak. So you can see the connection to behaviorism here. We are conditioned. So according to behaviorism, or the learning theory, we learn how to talk. We learn how to speak. Language learning, it takes step by step. The baby says a word. The word is received with a lot of cheer. Mama, mama. Mom goes crazy. He said his first word, mama, mama, and then the child learns that mama, I guess, is her name, and then and so forth. So parents are expert teachers according to behaviorism, and they will talk and teach their children how to talk, and children will learn through that process of interaction. So they preach under this theory that if adults want children to speak and understand and later read, they must talk to their infants. And this is something that we will refer to at the end of the slides. So this concept that language is taught is one theory. The second theory preaches that social impulses lead infants to language learning. So we are socially pragmatized or programmed to speak. So when we look around us as human beings, we are made to socialize. And one of the byproducts of our cultures is to learn the language of the culture. So infants communicate because humans have evolved as social beings and depend on each other through language to communicate. So therefore, it's a tool of the culture. And therefore, it's our social impulses that drive us to learn how to talk. So each culture, therefore, will practice their own, of course, communication and ways of communication, and one of them is the language. The third theory says that infants teach themselves. So here we go. This is the one that said language learning is innate. It's something that is programmed in the brain, and we come equipped with this tool that is waiting to be activated. So language itself is experience expectant according to this theory, and the specifics of the language, Chinese, English, Arabic, whatever, the specifics is experience dependent. So the proponent of this theory is Noam Chomsky, who came up with this concept of the language acquisition device, or the LAD. This is that structure that he said is in the brain that is sitting there ready to receive language and process it. And therefore, he believed in what is called the universal grammar theory. So his theory is that all children master basic grammar according to a particular schedule. So a child who is at 6 months is not going to talk in the same way as a child who is at 16 months, because their ability and the structure is not prepared to handle that complexity. Now, he also referred to one interesting phenomena that he said that kind of negates the first theory about teaching language, in the concept of how children make grammatical mistakes. So you can look at a child who is, for example, referring to multiple, let's say, fish, and they might say that I fed the fishes. When they say that, Chomsky said that shows that the child is learning to the grammar of the language from their context, from their surrounding, and making decisions within their mental structure about the universality of that concept, or how to apply it. So there is no way that there was an adult in that child's context that said fishes in front of them. So therefore, it's not it's not sitting with the first theory that